because we're all co-accused of being members of organized crime. So this is Canada's first trial run at our version of RICO against the motorcycle club. My name is Bob. I'm a retired member of the Outlaws Motorcycle Club in Canada, and I'm chatting with Stacks.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Stacks. I'm your host, Bill Stacks, and today I got retired 1%er Bob from Biker News Camp. So how do you end up walking away from the life?
Yeah, so in our case, so they rounded us all up, like I said, because of that snitch, and I caught bail the first time round, and then they got a sneaky thing up here that I didn't know. The prosecuting attorney can appeal the fact that you got bail and run another bail hearing on you.
After you already got out, they can do that?
In a high court. So they run another bail hearing on me in a high court, and my lawyer he said, I said, I'm out of money. That's the other thing that happens. You run out of money pretty fast when you start getting arrested. You still got a mortgage to pay, and now you got a wife and a kid. You got to make sure they're
You got lawyers, bail, you got all this stuff.
And all of a sudden, like, I'm out of money. You're going to have to do me the best you can and don't fuck it up. Well, anyways, so I go back to jail.
How long did you get out on that bond? Oh, how long did they get out?
I was out for a month. I was just getting used to it. And because, you know, what I did for a living, all my work partners were inside, right? So I couldn't turn a dollar. And my bail had me pretty much stuck in my house anyway. So I couldn't turn a dollar. So then after 30 days, they run this bail hearing. And back in I go, I didn't even take tobacco in my ass or nothing. They were choked at me. I'm like, oh, I thought I was winning, bro. He goes, you don't ever win the second one.
Man.
So that was 1 month in, and then I stayed another 13 months.
Are you locked up with all your brothers?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. You know what I mean? Me and Bandit and our other good friend from up north, Alex, all in the same range. Alex is a server. We're all eating 2 meals. I'm about 200 pounds. You know what I mean? We're living in cells basically by ourselves with all the mattresses. We're in dinks, right? It was county jail. So we had to stay there. And during that time, the guys on the other units, the other ranges, when we get together, maybe on a yard or maybe on a visit, you start to hear guys say stuff like, I don't want to be an outlaw when this is over anymore anyway. Okay. Fair beans. Everyone's got their do whatever the fuck they want. And then it got to because we're all co-accused of being members of organized crime. So this is Canada's first trial run at our version of RICO against the motorcycle club. So we're all co-accused of being members of organized crime. So now these guys are talking about, I'm pleading out and catching a deal, and I'm not snitching, and I'm on my way. So all of a sudden, a few guys start doing that, right? So now you're looking worse and worse. Now they start our prelims, and they're talking about it's going to take 6 years to run this trial. And it's like, I'm going to sit here in this place for 6 more years?
But you have to denounce the club, right? You have to be like, I'm done with the club. Or they don't let you do that.
No. So what happens is there's messages getting back and forth across the border and in Michigan, and because our snitch ended up working with the FBI, and he took down our next national P, Frank, from Indianapolis, and he got RICO'd from our snitch helped RICO that guy. So the States was in a bit of turmoil at the exact same time as we were in total turmoil, and all of our leaderships is in lockdown in London, and everybody, the whole leadership is locked up. It took about a year for the United States to get everything under control, and they got to worry about them first. That's home base, right? You can't have anything not working right in the United States. And then finally they turned their attention to Canada, and message got up to us that if you wanted to, you could plead guilty to being a member of organized crime, and then they had to hang it off another indictable offense, which is usually a drug trafficking charge, and get your deal and do what you got to do. But you have to retire from the Outlaws. We're not going to put you out bad, but you have to retire because then the next generation of guys wearing an outlaw patch isn't getting all snatched up right away and charged with organized crime in their right. So they
Yeah.
got to think of a way to keep the club going and not endanger the next generation. That's what they came up with through lawyers and whatever. So I was sitting there on the range talking to Bandit one day, and our other buddy from up north had just done it. They held him on an 8 ball for a year and a half because he had no one to sign. He had no one to sign his surety. So all he needed was a signature.
Yeah, but they can hold you for a lot longer here on an 8 ball.
Oh
They
yeah.
could lock you up for 10 years here for an 8 ball.
Oh Christ! We thought that was unheard of up here. So Alex took the deal and he retired from the club. And I was sitting on the picnic table on the unit and on the range talking to Bandit. We were bored we were frustrated. And he had some more bad charges on him than I had on me. And he goes, "Why don't you ask your lawyer to see what they're offering?" And they offered me to go home by Christmas. They said, "We'll let you go home and spend Christmas with your kid who I hadn't seen in a year." And that makes you think different when you get married and have kids in that life too. Because when I joined, I was single, young and dumb and full of, and I did whatever I wanted. Next thing you know, I had an old lady and a baby, right?
Yeah.
So you spend a year watching your kid grow up through the glass thinking, my next stop is probably Kingston, because that's where all the penitentiaries are. And I don't know if she wants to move to Kingston, right? So that could be the end of my old lady. Worse, old ladies are replaceable, but worse, my kid.
Did they confiscate your patch?
Yes, they took everything I owned out of my home that had the word Outlaws on it, including her Property of Outlaws patch. Took the whole thing. I used to have a ring on every finger that had, either Charlie on it or OFFO or some business with the club. They took two hands worth of rings, except for my wedding ring, because it had nothing to do with the club. They took everything, had big chains like you do
All your support gear,
with the
everything.
with the big pennant, the diamond encrusted pennant with Charlie in the middle and it said Outlaws Canada, like the patch says, all
Yeah.
that stuff. And they grabbed all of it off me. So
Wow.
yeah, they wiped me out. But the problem is that they don't understand when they wipe a person out like that, they put them in a bad spot where chances are they have to go back to the same thing to get back on their feet. You know what I mean? They don't put you out on the street in any better position where you're ready to go. When I got out, I packed up I had given my motorcycle, which I had spent about 50K building, over to the guy I used to get my product from because I knew I was going to jail. So I said, just take the damn thing. I did that when I caught that bail. I said, take it to Toronto. It's yours. There's the ownership. Try not to sell it. If you have to, you have. He sold it for 10 grand. I said, well, our debt's even. I don't care. But when I got out, I went back to him and we fired up and away we went.
What was your life like after the club?
It wasn't the same, but I was in the same. I did the same thing for a living. I just changed people I hung out with. It turned out the people I ended up hanging out with down there were way more serious than my motorcycle club was. And, I was running with, Asian fellas and guys like that. And a lot of Italian outfit guys down there. And yeah, so that was it. But it's hard to decompress and all of a sudden you're not that guy no more that can just walk into a room and say, you go over there and you do this, shut up. Because that's what rest. And I wasn't sure if the 81s were ever going to come and make a move on me. No.
That's a question I have for you. Did you ever run into any angels after that?
I did, but I just got myself low and I changed my appearance. But I think they knew who I was. And They stayed on their side of the room, and I stayed on mine because some of the guys that I was moving with down there, the Italian fellows, did other sort of work with those guys.